Where the heck are those coming from? What is that? What even? Oh man, am I really making this video right now? I think I am. I think it's happening. Before we get started, the sun is doing funky things right outside my window. So you can't see this, but there's a blanket pinned to the top of my window because the sun was right there and shooting all these flecks of sunlight. There's still this one little fleck of light though, like I don't know, it's, when I move my body around, like I swear it's floating around and I have no idea where it's coming from because that window is covered and the sun's not coming out from this window over here. So I have no idea what this phantom little light, it might appear throughout my video. I have no idea what it is, where it's come from, if it's like a sprite, if it's a spirit, if it's a fairy. I have no idea. It's October as I am filming this, and October is recognized as LGBT plus History Month. And just recently, October 11th, is recognized as National Coming Out Day. I was just browsing actually on Instagram just today and saw someone that I'm connected with come out. Like if Coming Out Day is the day for you to come out, I by all means encourage the coming out process, as I'm gonna get to very shortly here. But take whatever day you need to do that. It doesn't have to be October 11th. It can be any day, and it doesn't have to be to the whole world all at once. It can be in baby steps and stages. As again, I will be demonstrating today as I take a walk down memory lane. I have this duffel bag here, and it's very heavy, and this has followed me literally around the country for well over 10 years. The more I have this duffel bag, the more it gets filled, the heavier it gets, because it's filled with journal upon journal upon journal. I haven't done the count, but I think there's probably somewhere around 30. I used to be a huge journaler. I journaled pretty much every day back in middle school, high school, a lot of college. I kind of felt it was my duty to document every day. But the reason I have this duffel bag out today is because it is October, and because it is, we're in the throes of, I guess this could be National Coming Out Week, or if you want to celebrate it this whole month, National Coming Out Month. I wanted to do something for a long time, and this kind of felt like as good a time as any to do it, and that is to reread my journal entry from 2006, which is the first time that I came out to myself and I came out to God, which I think is a vital first step. Before you come out to anyone else, you kind of have to look in the mirror and face it for yourself. I was 19 years old in 2006 when that happened, and it's crazy just thinking back on it because I was such a different person then. Like, that is the single most defining moment of my life, is when I picked up the pen and finally confessed those words to myself and then ultimately to God in the privacy of my bedroom. I actually don't even remember like the language I used at the time and how long it was and how specific I was. I literally have not read this journal entry, you guys, ever. I can't ever remember going back in the last 14 years to that entry just to read it for old time's sake, you know, because it's not something that conjures up a lot of positivity. On the one hand, I'm glad I did it, of course, but it was a heavy one, though. It was by far the heaviest journal entry I've ever had to put together, because to give some context, if you haven't read my first book, there it is right there. It's available at thomasmarkz.store if you want to read my story. But part of my story, I don't want to spoil it, but part of it, my coming out to myself was spurred by kind of a tragic accident in our house, and that it was just a heavy, raw time of dealing with that, but then also, yeah, reckoning with my sexuality after 19 years. So there's a lot going on. Ultimately glad it happened, and I'm excited, a little terrified if I'm honest, but I'm really excited to actually go back and reread this entry out loud. But you guys, I have 20 or 30 journals here, and I don't even remember what the journal looked like. Like, I don't even remember, you know, because I have like plain black journals, and I have, you know, rustic, like snakeskin journals, and these are more of the recent ones. I know it's gonna be somewhere near the bottom of this pile. Then I have like this little lame thing here. Again, super boring. Then we get this one, like look at that. This one was fun because it was like recycled paper, and it was my first ever lineless journal. So I had to like, I remember freaking out when I got this journal because it's like, there's no lines. You can do whatever you want. Oh my gosh, you guys, this was my first ever journal. The World Journal. I've written about this journal. I've blogged about it, actually. Just even feeling it brings back so much memories. 1995, I was 8. So I remember these two journals. They were twin journals that I got at the same time, my senior year of high school, which was 2004, 2005. So I know We are in the ballpark, you guys. Okay, this one's April 2006. We're looking for November 2006. I think this is it, you guys. This is the one. I love that. Y'all, if you're gonna journal, if you're gonna take up journaling, first of all, I recommend it. But if you're gonna do it, opt for one of these, not one of these. Like, if you're gonna do it, like frickin'
do it.
But anyway, yeah, this is crazy. So I like to name all my journals. So this journal is actually titled Anew, A-N-E-W, which, you know, I started the journal in March of 2006. So I wonder, I mean, how cool. This is like realizing that my life, you know, gosh, I'm like all bumbled up in thoughts right now. My life was going to get new really quick by the end of this year, and that's kind of a cool premonition or a foreshadowing, sort of foreboding, but in a good way. Good foreboding. There's one I just came across November 8th. Election day was yesterday. Stupid Democrats. They had all kinds of victories over Republicans. I'm not gonna get political, but let's just say I've come a long way since 19 years old. Okay, gosh, I think we're there. All of a sudden I feel all these like tremors and shivers in my soul. Yeah, Saturday, November 18th, this was at 12:58 in the morning, so the night of Friday, November 17th, 2006. I mean, I'll just say it, spoiler alert, if you want to read my book and figure out what happened first. My dog died. My dog died that night in a really crazy accident. And I just remember for hours crying, stunned. And what's crazy, again, going back to my book, what's crazy is that I was in the middle of my first ever pornography addiction. Like, this is how it started. It was like literally 2 weeks, I think, before this night, which is a miracle that I went 19 and a half years without ever seeing pornography whatsoever. And then my dog died in this crazy accident, and life was a whirlwind that night. And all of a sudden, you know, I picked up my pen and a journal like I've done hundreds, thousands of times before. And up until that point, I had never processed my sexuality. I was always referencing it in vague sort of ways. I'm curious to see what comes out of this experience of reading these words from 19-year-old Tom again, 14 years later. That's crazy that almost as much time has gone by from the day I was born to the day I came out, from the day I came out to where I am today. Like, that is, oof, I feel so old. All right, so here's Teenage Tom from 2006. The first words, gosh, oh God, oh God. Here we go, let the journey begin. Oh God, I've been crying intermittently for hours now. I don't even know how to get going with this entry. No idea whatsoever. Annie's dead. I rushed downstairs and went to her side and cried and cried. I sat on the couch and held her in my arms. She wasn't breathing. Oh God. I cried. I'm crying. I stroked her fur and held her, and I cried for over 45 minutes. I held her and I cried over and over. This wasn't happening. No, it couldn't be. I've never felt so horrible in my life. More reasons soon coming. I didn't care that while holding her, I had her vomit coming onto my clothes. My dog, dead. It still wasn't registering, not one bit. Mom and Dad silently watched me as I held Annie in my arms. Eventually I lay her back down and had to come upstairs for some big time crying. Oh God, not now. She had 7 more years left. To be honest though, that was only a fraction of what I was saying, because mostly I was repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I went out to the van and cried some more. More crying, and now here I am in the midst of this journal entry, the journal entry of my life, what will eventually become the most defining moment of my life. It's crazy that I had that kind of foresight. That kind of blows my mind, yeah, that I had that awareness of the momentousness of this moment. It's what makes this whole tragic thing even more tragic. Tonight I was gonna do it again. I put it in capital letters like I often did. the it I've been doing these past 2 Fridays. It was that time of the week again. And yes, I'm 100% going to finally say what this it is and finally reveal the biggest secret of my life in here. For the past 10 or so years, I've been mightily struggling, and then lots of dots. I've been mightily struggling with homosexuality. Yes, I have. No jokes, it's the truth. People will be shocked to hear this. I've never written it down before because I was so afraid that somebody would discover my journals and find out. Also, I think I just didn't want myself to see those words written down. We can get to the hows and whys of it all later, but for now, that's enough. I've been struggling with homosexuality for so long, but I don't believe I had ever crossed the line with involving myself in porn before, until 3 weeks ago. I went to YouTube and got sucked in. This is what I've been talking about with the past several entries, but here's what breaks my heart. I had been restraining myself, quote unquote, to where I would only do this YouTube stuff on Friday nights. But even though that felt like a victory, quote unquote, I could hear thoughts in my head like, what if Annie dies because of this? Would that make you stop? And as I did it again and all this week and today, I still thought of this Annie dying thing. And I didn't care. Even with Annie literally on her deathbed, I had still planned on YouTubing tonight. I thought, no way. Annie can't die. The vet took care of her today. She still has 7 years left. She's Annie, our dog. And then boom, my life changes forever. Annie is dead. And she's dead because of me. It's crazy. I'm going to stop real quick because, first of all, just reliving this, like, my dog dying, like, I would say I'm over it. You know, it's been 14 years, so, like, I'm over it as over one can be. But reading it in just, like, specific raw detail, you know, from the moment it happened, it's definitely conjuring up a lot of uncomfortable feelings, a lot of regrets. And this whole concept of feeling responsible for her death, like, literally, I totally forgot that I was having those thoughts when I was watching porn for the first and then for the second time on those 2 Fridays. I literally had that thought, like, what if God punishes you for this? What if he takes someone from your life? What if he takes your dog? I completely forgot that that was something that I had this, like, sort of a premonition about. And then all this crazy stuff happening on that 3rd Friday, like, it's a little spooky to read about, but I also have come a long way in my theology that I don't believe I killed my dog. I think, you know, does God cause suffering? Does he allow it? Does he cause it? Does he produce it? I don't know. I don't know what control in that moment God had over my dog's life, but nonetheless, he absolutely used her passing. This was like literally the one thing that would have prompted such a response from me, because up until that point I had been so content to just let my sexuality be totally a secret. I go on to say, you can't tell me that it was coincidence that Annie's life gets threatened just as I'm dealing with all my nonsense thoughts of Annie dying. No way. And it breaks my heart. What if I had determined not to YouTube tonight? Would Annie still be alive? Oh God. I still just cannot grasp the fact that my dog is currently laying on the couch downstairs dead. Annie, I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Annie, I'm sorry. Over and over. Tell mom and dad? ? The thought raced around and around my head. Could I actually tell mom and dad about this secret that I vowed to never tell anyone? I haven't still, but the possibility is certainly there. Yeah, I remember writing this journal entry and I had no idea where it was going. I just knew that I had to finally write down the words. Some combination of words, pornography and homosexuality, like, had to be written down. And beyond that, I had no concept of telling my family, telling anybody. Like, this was so fresh, so new. You know, to go 19 and a half years just in the complete comfortable mindset that this is never something I'm going to tell anyone. I remember thinking back then, throughout my teenage years, I am going to die one day and never tell a single soul that I was attracted to the other boys, to men. It was inconceivable that I would ever tell anybody. And so the fact that I was even telling myself and then telling God and apologizing for my sin and having all this regret, I love journaling because I process as I write. And so even right now, like, this is the first time I'm ever thinking about telling my mom and dad. Not my brother and sister yet, but my mom and dad. And it's happening right here in real time as I'm writing this entry past midnight on this night. Anyway, while sitting in the van, I just thought of how God will use this for extraordinary good. Which is crazy that I had that thought that quickly, but I don't know. I've always lived that way as an Enneagram 4, like seeing the beauty in suffering, having this like urgent desire to see bad things turn good. Like I have felt that my whole life, certainly Exhibit A, right here, which is wild. Oh, here's interesting. An interesting line. I no longer have any desire for homosexuality. It could be that I'm so overtaken with grief right now, but I truly believe that my long struggle with this junk is over. How can I continue down that path after this? Annie's dead. Dead because of me. I don't know, I can't help but have a dark smile, I guess, as I read that line that I had no desire for homosexuality, or the junk, as I like put it in still kind of vague terms. Yeah, long story short, but the grief passed, and yeah, when the dust cloud settled, I was still very much attracted to men and still very much back into pornography. Like that did not disappear from my life, sadly. So, all right, last page. We're burying her tomorrow. Where? We don't know. I'm definitely gonna buy her a little tombstone somewhere. Where do you get animal tombstones? Oh God, I'm sorry, forgive me. For the past 10 years, for the past 3 weeks. When it comes down to it, I'm glad Annie died and not Mom or Dad or Anya or Andy. How 10,000 times awful would that be? Oh God, my Annie. She's gone forever. I love you, girl. You were the best dog ever. I never would have made it through high school without you. Never. You were my best friend. You always loved me, even when I was in a bad mood. And you always made me smile. Always. Oh, Annie, I'm so sorry. I don't know if you actually died because of my foolishness. I'll have to ask God someday. But regardless, Annie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, God, for avoiding this all my life. I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I am. Forgive me, God. Forgive me, Annie. I miss you so much already. How will I move on from here and this family? I'm in such disbelief still. I continue to cry. I'm sorry, Annie. You shouldn't be dead. It's my fault. How could I put my junk above you, above God? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need rest badly. I'll be back for more tomorrow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Oof. So, that was fun. Oh my gosh. I feel a lot of things. No, on the one hand, I see just like the complete insecurity of where I was at the time, like truly feeling like I had killed my dog with my sin, with my pornography usage, the secrecy, the lies. Not so much the homosexuality. Like I've always had a very clear delineation in my mind, which is not true for a lot of kids who grew up in the church. Like I feel really blessed, honestly, that I had never once struggled with feeling like my sexuality was the sin. Like the fact that I was even attracted to men was inherently sinful and wrong. And there's plenty of theologies out there that will say that it is, but that's just not where I was, and it's not where I've ever been. It was always like, what do you do with what's inside of you? You know, we all have propensities for all sorts of things. And so in my case, looking at gay pornography on the internet, I do not believe brings honor to God, and I called it for what it was. I called it junk. I called it sin, and that was what I felt. That was what I felt so regretful and remorseful about with my dog's passing. But that's the other layer to this. It was the porn, but then the deeper layer to this, the one that would follow me for the next 14 years and will continue to follow me until the day I die, is homosexuality. And what do I do with that? Who do I talk to about that? How do I get through this life with this being a part of me that I can't rip out, I can't take off? Oh look, light. The spirits are here, you guys. Again, I have no idea where they're coming from. Yeah, it's encouraging to see where I am now, 14 years later. Like, towards the end there, I was starting to get a little emotional and being like, you know, yeah, this was by far the most pivotal night of my life. Like, if my life could be separated into two halves, that would be the one that separates it right there. What followed was I actually handed my journal, this very journal, to my mom and dad the next day after we buried my dog. And then I disappeared for a couple of days and saw some friends a few hours away. And that's how the journey just got going. All of a sudden I went from 0 people knowing about my sexuality to 2. My parents knew, and over the next few years I would tell my brother and sister, I would tell a couple friends, I would tell this team that I worked with in a church life group, and then eventually I wrote Struggle Central, and that was where I officially came out to the world as a Christian who experiences same-sex attraction. And now, like, comfortable using the labels gay or queer as well, just still following Jesus through it all. And I'm sad, like, when I read the story again, I'm sad about it, like, that hasn't changed, but I guess I'm no longer crippled with the grief and crippled with regret and crippled with responsibility like I used to be. Like, I think there's still a little bit of attachment, some negative attachment there, but it's not nearly what it was in the heat of the moment of experiencing this. And so for that, I'm actually really proud of myself and proud of the growth that's occurred over this last decade and a half. It's been quite the journey. I never would have dreamed going through middle school and high school, being attracted to the same sex, that A, that I would ever tell a single soul, and then B, beyond that, far beyond that, like writing a book and starting this website, Your Other Brothers, creating an outlet and an environment for other people of faith to also be vulnerable and be real with their stories. Like, this whole thing is not about me. It's not about just one kid coming face to face with his darkness. Even if it was, that would be an amazing story. But the fact that it's roped in dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of other men and women too, for that matter. Like, man, if I had known then what I know now, maybe the tears would have been a little less heavy and drastic like they were. But in the words of 19-year-old Tom, God would use all that darkness, all that awfulness from that night for extraordinary good, and he absolutely has. So, oh man. So now that that's over, if y'all are interested in supporting me and what I do as a writer, as a podcaster, as now a YouTuber, I would love your support. You can go over to patreon.com/yourotherbros and learn more about Your Other Brothers, the work that I do over there. And also, still sitting over here, the Struggling Well mug, it's still available for sale at thomasmarkz.store. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll be back soon for another exciting video. I don't want to make light of what I just did. Why do I always do this? I have this tendency to just cover up everything that I just exposed to the light and to the spirit, including the spirit light, wherever that thing went to. Anyway, I hope this was fun. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was, I don't know, it just gives you a little bit more perspective into my journey, into my story. I guess the last thing I wanted to say and close with is, if you're gay, if you're a teenager, if you're 20-something, if you're an 80-something watching, and you've never told a soul, I'd encourage you to start processing that, the concept of telling somebody, and who might that be? Starting with yourself, penning those words that seem impossible onto a piece of paper, or locking yourself in a minivan and talking out loud to yourself, to God, and finally putting words to this kind of globular blob of emotions and shadows inside of you. And if you ever want to reach out to me, I've heard from so many people over the years. Some have told me that they've never told anyone, and I'm the first person they've opened up to about this part of their lives. I would be honored to be let into that part of your life. And so feel free to shoot me an email anytime, tom@thomasmarkz.com, and share a coming out story in the comments below. If you are open with your story and you want to you don't mind sharing, I would love to hear your own coming out story. How did your journey with sexuality, and if you're a Christian, if you're a person of faith, how did that mix, how did that intertwine with your story? I would love to read some stories in the comments below. Love all you guys. Thank you for all the support. Stay safe. Be well.